Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm showing you a new script that is actually not new, it's old. I did use it privately, but I wanted to share it with the public for free. Of course, it's not a script, it's actually a processing module, and it is a pro version of the Luminosity masks that you can use in the Lighthouse script. The Pro version is faster and it has some additional options that you can use for your images. The term Luminosity Masks is actually popularized by Tony Kuiper, that creates beautiful plugins for Photoshop. In his own words, he didn't invent that title, so I guess I can use it in PixInsight, and that's a bit of history of the name. Here is how you can install the module Luminosity Mask. Just go to Resources, Updates, Manage Repositories. You can go to Add, and you can add this repository link that will download the script. I will, of course, put it in the description and it will be visible on my web page also. Just click OK when you add one. OK, and Resources, Updates, check for updates, and it will show up. Install it, restart the PixInsight, and you'll have it on your processes. It will be visible on processes and mask generation. Here it is, Luminosity Masks. Easy peasy. Also, if you like what I do, please consider joining my Patreon page. I do post these scripts a bit earlier on my Patreon, so you can test it before I go public with them. For clearer presentation of what Luminosity Masks does or do on the image, I've created this black to white grayscale image presenting the signal at its most darkest and at its most lightest part of the image, and all in the middle. So let's say this is your image. It has some black tones and it has some light tones like stars and dark tones like background, and everything in between. That is called midtones. So what does the Luminosity Mask do? The lights, the first lights when you open the masks, actually does this. It creates this mask onto this image. And if we want to select the darks, it will flip the mask. So everything white here will be selected and everything dark here will not be selected. Luminosity masks are special because they have the perfect gradient edge, so nothing gets distorted or you don't get any artifacts when you are creating these masks. So that's important to know. Okay, we have midtones. As you can see, it selects the midtones and it has a gradient to the darks and a gradient to the whites. When you're applying a midtone, you will not affect the stars and you will not affect the background. So this is broad, this is tighter, and even more tighter midtone. Okay, let's get to the beginning. There are two luminance sources. First is RGB luminance, and the second is perpetual lightness. The difference is that the RGB is actually mathematically correct value of the luminance in your image, and the perpetual brightness is more of a visual accurate description of the luminance in your image. Later I will show you the differences so you can decide what to use. Of course, You can use the masking in the linear data. You just have to click this if you have a linear image. And the fun begins with the strength slider. At 1, it will replicate the luminance of your image as it is. If you lower the strength, you will have more of the mask going to the darker side of the image, and if we go to the right side, you'll have more of the mask on the light side, so you can mask anything that is very bright on your image. Of course, you will always have this gradient, and you can even apply some smoothness to make some more gradient if you like. You can invert the mask, so you will select just the dark and you will protect the light. And the same thing goes for the darks. Let's select the darks. It's just inversed. Now we are selecting the darks, and if we are lowering, it will select more darks going to the light side of the force, and if we move to the right, we will select more of the dark side of the force. If you didn't get it by now, I do like Star Wars.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
Once we made a selection, let's say we want this part of the image, we can play with the clip low and clip high. It will heighten the black part to be protected, or you can lower the high part. You can see the line here. Here is the line. Everything here will be pure white. So it will be pure mask, just white. No additional gradient or black. So you can manipulate with this even more to have some different gradients between the most dark parts and the most light parts. We can even use the smoothness to even out this gradient some more, or if you don't like that, we can do this. We can of course invert it and play with these sliders. Very nice. If you have an RGB image, the preview can have multiple colors for the masking. Here is the lights mask, and overlay is red. So everything red is actually a mask. We can change this color to green, magenta. When you have an astro image, maybe you'll have some parts of the image that you cannot see what is masking, so you can change the color to see it better. Let's say you want to mask the blue stars, and you see the blue mask. You don't see the blue mask on the blue stars, so you can change it to some magenta or green, and then you will see the more of the mask. Of course, you have the opacity also, and when you invert, now you'll see the mask is creating this part of the image. So this part of the image is now selected. The green is now the mask you are creating. Simple enough, right? Let me reset. I like to work with the grayscale mask. It's easier for the eyes, and you can do this. The output is that the mask is immediately attached to the target view, and that you can see the overlay. And when we click it, now you'll see the overlay. We can remove the overlay, we can see the mask and it's applied. You know it by this brown color of the tab. Let's now switch to the midtones. Now you'll see the mask is at the middle, of course, because we want to apply it on the midtones. And now the options, the sliders are open for our managing of these three sliders that are closed when we have lights and darks. And the reason is we can move now the part of the midtones we want to create a mask. Now it's in the center because the center part is the midtones, and we can move it. We can move it to this part. These are also midtones, but they are dark midtones, and these are light midtones. Only this part is purely white and this part is purely black. So we can manage this midtone. We can even go to the end and have a dark tone mask. And we can go to the other side also. So you can manipulate this any way you like. The width will be how far stretched do you want it. Now we will affect the darks and the lights if the width is very strong, and if we want to apply just on the midtones, we can do this. And the fall off is actually this part. We can have this kind of mask that will have hard edges, and we can have this fall off. Of course, we can also use the smoothness to smooth out the center part so that it's not pure white. We can also do that, and the fall off is any way you like it. So very cool. So you can see how you can manipulate it with these sliders any way you want on every part of the luminance in your image. Let's move on to the real image. Here is a nice Crescent nebula, and if I press the mask, we will see this. So this is a mathematically correct values for the RGB working space luminance, and this is visually correct lightness of the image. It's actually the luminance channel when you extract the luminance from the RGB image. So if you want to use this, you can, and if you want to use this, it's more accurate to the eyes. So now we have a grayscale mask, and when we manipulate the grayscale, we see the mask. But if we want to see the image underneath, we can do the overlay. So now I want some color of the overlay because everything is red. I will make the overlay not blue, let's say yellow. It's still not that visible. Green. Okay, let's go with green. And we can switch and see the mask and see it with the overlay on the image. So I wanted to mask the nebula, just the nebula. So we can raise the lights like so. Let me clip the blacks and let me create some more lightness into these parts. You can now lower it. So we are now masking this nebula, this Crescent nebula, because I want to create the mask just for the nebula. There are still some leftovers here, but let's say this is what I want. And now just press OK. Let me close this window. It's crowded, so we have an image here. The overlay is on because we have a selected show mask overlay, so we can see the mask. And this is the mask that is applied. So when we want to, let's say, go to the curves, and now we want to remember the mask is on, the brown tab is on, so the mask is here, and we want to manipulate the image with curves. And now when we rise the curves, we are applying the curves only on the masked area, as you can see. And if we want to lower it down, maybe it's too bright, and we want some saturation. This is how it's done. Okay, and now we have this. We have masked the Crescent Nebula and did some changes. Of course, there are some changes here because this is also bright, and we did manage to mask that as well. And the great stuff with this mask that it always has that gradient, so you don't have any artifacts when you're applying some transformation with curves or any other tool. This is a bit difficult when you have the range selection and you are looking for the best gradient possibility on the image, and it's sometimes hard to deliver that or create it. With this tool you can create it very easily now. Okay, let me reset this. Okay, let's now close the mask and let's create another mask. Real-time preview. Reset all the options. Go to the luminance, lightness. Go to the darks. I want to now select the darks. We are now selecting the dark part of the image. You can also see that the dark part is in the middle of this nebula. We have some dark stuff. Okay, let's see the overlay. It's still on green. So we now are seeing what is being actually masked. Let's go to the grayscale. Okay, I want this. Apply it. Let's close this. Another mask is created and applied onto the image. Of course, if you don't want to see the overlay, just unclick this show mask overlay and it will create this image with the brown tab. And again, let's apply some transformation. I want to lower the black parts so the alpha region are more visible. And let's say I want to lower down the saturation also. So before, after, before, after. As you can see, no artifacts, just pure magic. Apply. And now we have this. cool thingy. Okay, let me remove the mask. Let's close this. Let's move to another image. Let's say you have some stars with some glow that you want to tone down. Let me apply the mask. I want now the midtones, and now you'll see we are affecting just the midtones of the image. The cores of the stars are of course very light, and the space behind is very dark, so we are having only selection of the midtones that are in the glow of the stars, and maybe some parts are in the brighter sides of the nebula. So we can manipulate it even more. Let's now clip everything what's behind. You can see this part of the nebula. I don't want to affect this part, so we will clip it. We can do this. I will not clip the highs. Let me move the center. So you can see we are now moving to the left, so we are affecting the darker parts more. And if we move to the right, we are affecting the brightest part. We are moving to the closer to the cores. But we don't want that. We want just a bit of... I want to select this part, this glow that I want to affect. And now we can even do some tiny bit of smoothness, because I think it's not there yet with the gradient, so we can help ourselves with some smoothness. Okay, let's say this is okay. And now I don't want to show the mask, let's just apply it. Okay, the mask is created, it's applied onto the image, and we can now move on to the curves and reset the curves. Let's see the image and let's just zoom it. And now when we apply, we can even have some more of the glow, but I wanted to tone down the glow. Of course, if we go too much, we'll have this. If you like this kind of stars, you can do that, but I don't. I want to have some glow because stars are glowy, but I want just a tiny bit. And here it is. This is how we affected the stars. Let me zoom even more. And the mask is perfectly gradient, and it doesn't create any artifacts. We just lowered down some brightness in the star. We didn't affect the cores, we didn't affect the background, and we didn't affect the nebulas that are brighter on some part. Let's click OK. Remove this. And now we have some tiny adjustments on the stars. Pretty cool, ain't it? Here is another example. Maybe you have some moonshots that are flat. Let's see what we can do with some adjusting of the luminosity masks. Let's do this. Let's clip some more of that whites and let's clip some more of the blacks. This is the mask, right? And we want to enhance the lighter parts because we have the moon that is basically flat. It doesn't have stars, so it does not have the brightest pixels. The brightest are in the midtones probably. So we can manipulate the lights. We can also use the midtones for the masks. Let's first create the lights mask. So this is the mask that we are trying to achieve. maybe some smoothness to it. Let's say I'm liking this. I don't want to show the mask. Let's apply it. Click here. This is our mask that is already applied. And now we can move on to the curves. Let's reset this. And let's see what happens when we apply some curves. It's a reasonable lower intensity mask, so the effect is not that great, but it has an effect. We have some manipulation of the light tones that are now much lighter. You see this part of the crater and this, and particularly this. It's getting brighter. Okay, let's say I like this. Apply it, reset it, remove this preview, and remove the mask. I want to create a new mask. Okay, reset the module, and let's go to the midtone masks. So now this part of the lightest parts of the craters are now deselected from the midtones because they are in the light part of the image. We can even lower the center so we can expel those higher points of the pixel values. Let's clip the blacks more. Okay, let's leave this as is. Little bit of smoothness can hurt. And maybe the width. Let's lower the width. So we are now applying some more masks to the midtones. Everywhere we have the blacks that are dark and we have the blacks that are light. So we are somewhere in the middle. We can see the we can't see the overlay because this is not a RGB image. It's okay. Let's remove this. Let's press apply. Remove the real-time preview. Here is the mask. It's more intensive than the lights. You see how the lights were so low intensity and this is very high intensity. Okay, the mask is on. Let me apply the curves now. And you can see now how this affects the image, especially this part. So we can create some S-curve. It's always good to have an S-curve on the midtones. You will have some more contrast then. Let's see the before after. And now the applied region is actually not applied on this brighter parts, but everything surrounding it is now a bit lighter, so we are creating even more contrast without blowing out stuff. Let me apply this. Okay, remove this, remove the mask, and we can now see the progress, the lights, the midtones, and when you apply it to the whole moon, if you're doing a mosaic, the contrast will boost up the image and it will look much more beautiful than the flat one. You can even see the textures some more because the difference in the light and the dark tones. Because of the contrast, you have an effect if was a bit sharpened. Look, a heart. Ooh. A heart crater. Just kidding. I don't know. But it is shaped like the heart. I didn't notice that before. Pretty cool. As you can see, you can do some pretty stuff with this tool. I will make some more tutorials using the only luminosity mask for some images, but this is just an introduction of how it works. So I hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe, like, comment, or join my Patreon page, and you can buy me a coffee also if you want to support this kind of scripts. So see you in another one. Bye bye.